Jake Martinez wiped the sweat from his face as he worked inside the air vent. The metal was hot under his hands and the tools felt heavy after 3 hours of repairs. He was just a maintenance guy on the ship called New Horizon. His job was simple: fix things when they broke. Today was different, though. Today, humans were meeting aliens for the first time. Real aliens. Not the kind from movies, but actual beings from another world. The meeting was happening on a big space station called Concordia Prime. Jake had seen the aliens walking around the station earlier. They were tall and had blue skin that seemed to glow. Their leader was someone important, a princess. Jake did not care much about the fancy meeting. He just wanted to finish fixing the air system and get some food. His stomach was making noise and he was tired. The vent he was working in was right above the big meeting room, where all the important people were talking. He could hear voices below him. Human voices and alien voices mixed together. The alien language sounded like music, but he could not understand it. Sometimes he heard the translation machines working, turning the alien words into English. Jake tightened another bolt and was about to move to the next section when he heard something that made him stop. It was a sound he knew well from his time in the military, the high whine of energy weapons charging up. That was not good. He looked down through the vent cover and saw something that made his blood run cold. 3 figures in black armor had entered the meeting room. They were not part of the meeting. They had big guns that glowed with deadly energy. The room below erupted into chaos. People were screaming and running. Security guards were shouting orders. But Jake's eyes were fixed on one person, a young alien woman with bright blue skin and a crown made of what looked like crystal. She was beautiful in a way that was completely different from humans. She had to be the princess everyone was talking about. She was standing frozen in the middle of the room, looking confused and scared. The attackers were raising their weapons toward her. Jake could see the energy building up in the barrels. In a few seconds, she would be dead. Jake did not think. He just acted. He kicked out the vent cover and dropped down into the room. It was a long fall, and he hit the ground hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he ignored it. He had one goal now: get to the princess before those weapons fired. The room was full of smoke and flashing lights. Security alarms were screaming. Jake ran through the chaos, pushing past panicking diplomats and confused guards. The attackers had not seen him yet. They were focused on their target. The princess saw him coming. Her large dark eyes went wide with surprise.
She had never seen a human move so fast or with such determination.
Jake could see the fear in her face, but also something else. Hope. One of the attackers noticed Jake at the last second. The alien in black armor turned his weapon toward this new threat, but Jake was already moving. He dove forward, wrapping his arms around the princess and pulling her down just as the energy blast fired. The beam of deadly light hit Jake square in the back. The pain was unlike anything he had ever felt. It was like being struck by lightning while being burned alive. The alien energy tore through his body, but something strange happened. Instead of killing him instantly like it should have, his body seemed to absorb the energy. It hurt beyond belief, but he did not die right away. Jake held onto the princess as they hit the ground together. He could feel his strength leaving him, but he kept his arms around her, protecting her with his own body. More energy blasts were firing over their heads as security forces finally responded to the attack. The princess was saying something in her musical language, but Jake could not understand. Her voice sounded worried and grateful at the same time. He tried to tell her she was safe now, but the words would not come out right. His vision was getting dark around the edges. He could hear the sounds of fighting getting farther away. The energy that had hit him was still burning through his system, changing things he did not understand. He felt different, like something fundamental about his body was being rewritten. The last thing Jake saw before everything went black was the princess's face. She was looking down at him with those big dark eyes, and there were tears running down her blue cheeks. She was holding his hand and speaking softly in her alien language. Even though he could not understand the words, he could hear the meaning. She was thanking him. Jake Martinez had been a simple maintenance worker when he woke up that morning. Now as consciousness left him, he was something else entirely. He was the human who had saved an alien princess. He was the man who had changed the course of history between two species with one act of courage. He was a hero, though he would not know it for 3 days. Around him, Zephyrian medical teams rushed into the room. They had never treated a human before, but they would do everything in their power to save the brave alien who had protected their princess. The energy that should have killed him had done something impossible instead. Jake Martinez was about to discover that sometimes the best things in life come from the worst moments. Jake woke up slowly, like swimming up from the bottom of a deep, dark pool. Everything felt strange. The bed was too soft, the air smelled different, and there were sounds he had never heard before. Soft beeping noises and gentle humming filled the room. He tried to sit up and was surprised when his body responded easily. 3 days ago, he had been dying. He remembered the pain of the energy blast, the feeling of his life slipping away, but now he felt good. Better than good, actually. He felt strong. The room around him was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of crystal that glowed with soft light. Everything was curved and smooth, with no sharp edges. It was beautiful, but definitely not human-made. "You are awake," said a voice like music. Jake turned his head and saw her. The princess. She was sitting in a chair next to his bed, and she was even more beautiful than he remembered. Her blue skin seemed to shimmer in the crystal light, and her dark eyes were full of concern and kindness. You can speak English?" Jake asked. His voice was rough from not being used. She smiled, and it was like watching the sun come up. "I have been learning while you slept. I wanted to thank you properly when you woke up." Jake tried to remember what had happened. The attack, the energy blast, saving her life. It all seemed like a dream now. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" The princess looked surprised by his question. "You nearly died saving my life, and you ask if I am hurt?" "You are a very strange human, Jake Martinez. You know my name? I know many things about you now. You are 22 years old. You work fixing things on ships. You have a mother named Maria and a little sister named Rosa back on Earth. You like old movies and hate coffee, but drink it anyway because it helps you stay awake during long work shifts." Jake stared at her. "How do you know all that?" "I asked your people to tell me about the human who saved my life. I needed to understand what kind of person would risk everything for a stranger." She leaned forward in her chair. "My name is Lirelei. I am the daughter of Emperor Thoraxis, ruler of the Zephyrian Empire." Before Jake could respond, the door to the room opened. A human woman in a white coat walked in. She was middle-aged with kind eyes and graying hair. "Mr. Martinez, I'm Dr. Helena Ward. I'm glad to see you're awake. How are you feeling?" "Different," Jake said honestly. "Really different. What happened to me?" Dr. Ward checked some readings on a device that looked nothing like any medical equipment Jake had ever seen. "That's a very good question. By all rights, you should be dead. The energy blast you took was designed to kill Zephyrians instantly. It should have completely destroyed a human. But it didn't," Princess Lirelei said. "Instead, it changed him." Dr. Ward nodded. "The Zephyrian medical teams found that your body somehow absorbed and dispersed the energy instead of being destroyed by it. In the process, it altered your cellular structure. You're stronger now, more durable. Your reflexes are faster, and your body heals much quicker than normal." Jake looked at his hands. They looked the same, but he could feel the difference. There was power in them now, controlled and waiting. "So I'm not human anymore?" "You're still human," Dr. Ward assured him. "Just enhanced. The Zephyrian doctors say they've never seen anything like it. They think it has something to do with the unique way human biology interacts with their energy weapons." Princess Lirelei stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Jake could see the vastness of space and the hull of what had to be a massive ship. "You are aboard the royal vessel Starlight's Edge," she said. "My father's flagship. He wanted you to have the best medical care possible. Your father knows about me?" The princess turned back to him, and her expression was serious now. "Jake Martinez, you are famous across the entire Zephyrian Empire. What you did, protecting me without thinking of your own safety. It means everything to my people. We value courage above all other qualities. You have shown more courage than most of our greatest warriors." Jake felt uncomfortable with all the attention. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Princess Lirelei said firmly. "You did what you would do. Most people would have stayed hidden in that air vent. Most people would have thought of their own safety first. You did not hesitate for even a moment." Over the next few days, Jake learned more about the Zephyrians and their culture. Princess Lirelei visited him every day, sometimes bringing food she thought he might like, sometimes just to talk. She was fascinated by human culture and asked him hundreds of questions about Earth, about his life, about what it was like to grow up knowing you had to earn everything you got. Jake found himself looking forward to her visits. She was intelligent and funny. And despite being royalty, she was genuinely interested in his stories about fixing broken equipment and working long shifts. She told him about her own life, about the pressure of being a princess and the expectations placed on her. "On your world," she said one day as they shared a meal that tasted like chicken but was definitely not chicken, "people choose their own paths. They can become anything they work hard enough to become." "Most of the time," Jake agreed, "though some people have advantages, others don't. But they still have choice. I was born to be a ruler. I never had the option to be anything else." She looked sad for a moment. "Sometimes I wonder what I might have chosen for myself." Jake thought about that. "What would you choose? If you could be anything?" Princess Lyrelei smiled. "I think I would like to explore, to see new worlds and meet new people, to learn about different ways of living." She paused, like learning about humans from a maintenance worker who became a hero. "I'm not a hero," Jake said automatically. "You saved my life without thinking about the cost to yourself. If that is not heroic, then what is?" Before Jake could answer, the door chimed. A Zephyrian in elaborate robes entered and spoke rapidly in their musical language. Princess Lyrelei's eyes went wide. "What is it?" Jake asked. She turned to him and he could see excitement and nervousness in her expression. "My father is coming. Emperor Thoraxis wants to meet you personally." Jake felt his stomach drop. Meeting an alien princess was one thing. Meeting the ruler of an entire empire was something else entirely. "When?" he asked. Princess Lyrelei checked a device on her wrist. "His ship will dock with ours in 2 hours." Jake looked down at the simple clothes the medical staff had given him. "I don't think I'm dressed to meet an emperor." Princess Lyrelei laughed, a sound like silver bells ringing. "Jake Martinez, you are the human who saved the emperor's daughter. You could be wearing rags and he would still be honored to meet you." But as she said it, Jake could see something else in her eyes. This meeting would change everything. He was about to come face to face with one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. And somehow, Jake had the feeling that his simple life as a maintenance worker was over forever. Jake had never been so nervous in his life. He stood in what Princess Lyrelei called the formal receiving chamber, wearing clothes that the Zephyrian tailors had made for him in just 2 hours. The outfit was simple but elegant, made from fabric that seemed to shift color slightly when he moved. The chamber itself was enormous. The ceiling was so high that Jake could barely see it, and the walls were covered in what looked like living crystal that pulsed with soft light. Everything about this place was designed to make visitors feel small and impressed. Princess Lyrelei stood next to him, wearing a formal gown that made her look even more beautiful and regal than usual. She had tried to prepare Jake for meeting her father, but how do you prepare someone to meet an alien emperor? "Remember," she said quietly, "he is my father first and an emperor second. He will want to know about the person who saved his daughter's life. What if I say something wrong? What if I accidentally insult him or your people?" Princess Lyrelei smiled and placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Jake, you threw yourself in front of an energy blast to save me. I think my father can forgive you if you use the wrong fork at dinner." Before Jake could ask what she meant about forks, massive doors at the far end of the chamber began to open. They moved silently despite being at least 20 feet tall and made of what looked like solid gold. Emperor Thoraxis entered the room, and Jake immediately understood why he ruled an empire. The emperor was huge, at least 9 feet tall, with broad shoulders and a presence that filled the entire chamber. His skin was the same blue as his daughter's but darker, and it seemed to glow with its own inner light. His face was strong and noble, with high cheekbones and eyes that held the weight of ruling billions of people. He wore robes that seemed to be made of captured starlight, and a crown that looked like it had been carved from a single massive crystal. But what struck Jake the most was not how different the emperor looked, but how much he looked like his daughter. They had the same eyes, the same proud way of carrying themselves, the same kindness hidden behind royal dignity. Emperor Thoraxis walked across the chamber with measured steps, each one echoing in the vast space. Behind him came several advisors and guards, but Jake only had eyes for the emperor himself. When the emperor reached them, he stopped and looked down at Jake. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Jake felt like he was being measured, judged, and examined all at once. Then Emperor Thoraxis did something unexpected. He smiled. "So," he said in perfect English, his voice deep and warm, "you are the human who saved my daughter." Jake tried to remember the formal greeting Princess Liralai had taught him, but his mind went blank. Instead, he just said, "Yes, sir." "I mean, Your Majesty. I mean—" He stopped and took a breath. "Yes," the Emperor's smile got bigger. "Liralai told me you would be nervous. She also told me you were brave, humble, and honest. I can see she was right about all three. I just did what anyone would do," Jake said automatically. "No," Emperor Thraxus said firmly. "You did what you would do. There is a difference." He gestured to chairs that seemed to appear from nowhere. "Sit. We will talk." As they sat down, servants brought drinks and food. Jake was surprised when the Emperor dismissed most of his guards and advisors, leaving just the three of them and a few servants. "Tell me about yourself, Jake Martinez," the Emperor said. "Not the official report my people prepared, but your own words. Tell me about the man who saved my daughter." So Jake did. He talked about growing up on Earth, about his mother working 2 jobs to support him and his sister after their father died. He talked about joining the military to pay for technical training, about learning to fix things because he liked making broken things work again. He talked about his simple dreams of maybe opening his own repair shop someday. Emperor Thraxus listened without interrupting, asking occasional questions that showed he was really paying attention. Princess Liralai translated when Jake used words or concepts that did not exist in Zephyrian culture. "You speak of earning your place in the world," the Emperor said when Jake finished. "This is not how things work for my people. We are born to our positions. I was born to rule. Liralai was born to be a princess. But you chose to become the person you are." "Everyone makes choices," Jake said. "Even you, sir. You could choose to be a bad ruler, but you don't." The Emperor looked surprised. "You would tell an emperor he could be bad at his job?" Jake realized what he had said and felt his face turn red. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Emperor Thraxus laughed, a sound like distant thunder. "Do not apologize for honesty, young human. It is a rare gift, especially in palaces." He leaned forward in his chair. "Tell me, what did you think when you saw my daughter in danger?" Jake thought about it. "I didn't really think at all. I just saw someone who needed help and I helped." "You did not think about the fact that she was an alien? That helping her might start a war between our species if you failed? That you might die?" "No, sir. I just saw someone who was scared and in trouble." Emperor Thraxus was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to his daughter and spoke in Zephyrian. Princess Liralai responded, and they had a brief conversation that Jake could not understand. Finally, the Emperor turned back to Jake. "My daughter tells me that in the days since the attack, you have learned much about our culture. She also tells me that you have taught her much about yours. Is this true?" "She's been very kind to me," Jake said, "and she asks really good questions about Earth. She tells me you explained the human concept of earning respect, rather than simply commanding it because of birth. This is interesting to me. In our society, respect comes with position. But you suggest that position should come with respect?" Jake thought carefully before answering. I think respect is something that has to be given freely. You can make people obey you, but you can't make them respect you. That has to be earned. And how does one earn respect? By doing the right thing even when it's hard? By caring about others? By being honest and fair?" Jake paused. "By being the kind of person others want to follow, not just someone they have to follow." Emperor Thraxus stood up suddenly, and Jake worried he had said something wrong. But the Emperor was not angry. Instead, he looked thoughtful. "Jake Martinez," he said formally, "you saved my daughter's life. By the laws of my people, this puts me in your debt. I must offer you a reward worthy of the service you have performed." "I don't need a reward," Jake said quickly. "I'm just glad she's safe." "And that," the Emperor said, "is exactly why you deserve one." He gestured to Princess Liralai. "My daughter has told me of your character, your values, your courage. I have seen for myself your honesty and your lack of greed. You are the kind of person my empire needs." The Emperor paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was formal and commanding. "Jake Martinez of Earth, I hereby grant you the status of honorary son of the Imperial House. You will be treated as a member of my family, with all the rights and privileges that come with that position." Jake stared at him. "I'm sorry, what?" Princess Liralai was smiling so brightly she seemed to glow. "Father, this is wonderful." "Wait," Jake said, trying to understand. "Son? But I'm human." "You are the human who saved my daughter," Emperor Thraxus said. You are the human who showed more courage and honor than most of my own nobles. Blood does not make family, Jake Martinez. Choice does. Actions do. Character does. The Emperor placed a large hand on Jake's shoulder. I never had a son, but if I had, I would want him to be like you. Jake felt tears in his eyes. His own father had died when he was young, and he had always wondered what it would be like to have a father figure in his life again. He had never imagined it would be an alien emperor. I don't know what to say. Say you will stay with us for a while, Princess Liralai said. Learn about our people, help us understand yours. Be the bridge between our worlds. Jake looked at these two powerful, kind beings who were offering him a family he had never expected. He thought about his simple life back on Earth, about fixing air conditioners and eating cheap food and working long hours. Then he thought about the chance to be part of something bigger, something important. The chance to help two species understand each other. The chance to be part of a family that chose him not for what he was born as, but for who he had chosen to become. Okay, he said. I'll stay. Emperor Thoraxis smiled and pulled Jake into a hug that lifted him off the ground. Welcome to the family, my son. 3 weeks later, Jake was starting to understand that being an honorary son of an emperor was much harder than it sounded. He sat in his new quarters aboard the Imperial flagship, staring at a pile of data tablets he was supposed to read. Each one contained information about Zephyrian law, culture, history, or politics. Princess Liralai had assured him that he only needed to learn the basics, but the basics seemed to include about 10,000 years of Imperial history. A soft chime indicated someone was at his door. Come in, Jake called, grateful for any interruption. Princess Liralai entered carrying 2 cups of something that smelled wonderful. You look like you need a break, she said, offering him one of the cups. Jake took a sip and smiled. It was hot chocolate. Real Earth hot chocolate, somehow recreated perfectly by the ship's food systems. How did you... I have been studying human foods. I thought you might be missing home. She sat down across from him and gestured at the tablets. How is your studying going? Slowly. Did you know your people have 17 different levels of formal greeting, depending on who you're talking to and what day of the week it is? Liralai laughed. I grew up with those rules. They must seem very complicated to you. Everything seems complicated, Jake admitted. Yesterday I accidentally called Admiral Zexhai by his first name instead of his title. I thought he was going to challenge me to a duel. He probably considered it, Liralai said cheerfully, but Father made it clear that anyone who harms you will answer to him personally. You are quite safe from dueling challenges. Jake was not sure if that made him feel better or worse. I don't want special protection. I want to fit in. You are fitting in better than you think. The crew talks about you constantly. They say you are polite, that you work hard to learn our ways, and that you treat everyone with respect regardless of their rank. That reminded Jake of something that had been bothering him. Liralai, can I ask you about something I saw? Of course. Yesterday I was walking through the lower decks and I saw some of the junior officers treating the maintenance crew badly, making them wait for food, taking their rest breaks, that kind of thing. Is that normal? Liralai's expression grew serious. It is traditional. Those of higher rank have certain privileges. But it's not right, Jake said. Those maintenance workers keep the ship running. They deserve respect too. You sound like you're planning to do something about it. Jake looked down at his hands. Over the past weeks, he had noticed the changes in his body becoming more pronounced. He was stronger than any human had a right to be, faster, more durable. But more than that, he seemed to understand Zephyrian technology instinctively. He could look at their computers and somehow know how they worked. I've been thinking about it, he said, but I don't want to cause problems for your father. Before Liralai could respond, the ship's communication system activated. All senior personnel to the command center immediately. Priority 1 situation. Liralai stood quickly. That's the highest alert level. Something is very wrong. They hurried to the command center where Emperor Thoraxis was standing before a massive display screen. His expression was grim. Around him, officers and advisors were working frantically at their stations. Father, what's happening? Liralai asked. We have intercepted communication suggesting that Lord Vextar is planning something, the Emperor said without taking his eyes off the screen. He has been gathering allies among the noble houses, claiming that my decision to honor Jake has weakened the Empire. Jake felt his stomach sink. This is because of me? Emperor Thoraxis turned to him. This is because Vextar is ambitious and sees an opportunity. He has been opposed to our alliance with humanity from the beginning. Your presence here simply gives him an excuse to act. What kind of action? Jake asked. We are not certain, but our intelligence suggests he is planning to challenge my authority directly, perhaps even attempt a coup. Admiral Zexhai approached them. Your Majesty, we have confirmed that Lord Vexitar has been meeting secretly with several military commanders. He claims that granting honors to an alien has insulted the Imperial bloodline. Jake looked around the command center at all the worried faces. These people were in danger because of him. Maybe I should leave. Go back to Earth. If I'm not here, he won't have an excuse. No. Emperor Thoraxis said firmly. Running from a bully only encourages him. Besides, you are my son now. Family does not abandon family. But your people, my people need to see that their Emperor stands by his decisions and protects those he has chosen to honor. The Emperor's expression softened slightly. Jake, you have done nothing wrong. Do not let Vextar's ambition make you doubt yourself. Over the next few days, the situation grew more tense. Reports came in of Lord Vextar gathering support, claiming that the Emperor had become weak and that the Empire was being polluted by alien influence. Some nobles supported him, while others remained loyal to the Emperor. Jake threw himself into his studies, but now he was not just learning about culture and history. He was studying military tactics, political strategy, and imperial law. If he was going to be part of this family, he needed to understand how to protect it. He also spent time with the crew, especially the maintenance workers. He learned their names, heard their concerns, and slowly began to understand the complex social structure of Zephyrian society. The more he learned, the more he realized that many of the problems in the Empire came from the rigid class system that kept talented people from advancing. One evening, as Jake was working late in his quarters, his door chimed. He opened it to find Commander Ryan Kelly, the head of human security from the diplomatic mission. Commander Kelly, Jake said, surprised. What are you doing here? May I come in? We need to talk. Jake stepped aside to let him enter. Commander Kelly was a serious man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had always been polite to Jake, but distant. Jake, I'm going to be direct. The human government is concerned about your situation here. What do you mean? You've been given unprecedented honors by an alien government. You're living with their royal family, learning their military secrets, gaining access to their technology. Some people back home are wondering where your loyalties lie. Jake felt anger flare up inside him. My loyalties lie with doing the right thing, with helping people understand each other instead of fighting. That's admirable, but it's also naive. What happens if tensions rise between Earth and the Zephyrian Empire? What happens if we end up on opposite sides of a conflict? Then I'll work to prevent that conflict, Jake said firmly. Commander Kelly studied him for a moment. You've changed, Jake. It's not just the physical changes from that energy blast. You're different. More confident, more powerful. Is that bad? It could be. Power changes people, and you're gaining a lot of power very quickly. Kelly moved toward the door, then paused. Just remember where you came from, Jake. Remember that you're human first. After Kelly left, Jake sat alone in his quarters, thinking about what the commander had said. Was he changing too much? Was he losing touch with his human side? A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Come in, he called. Princess Lirelai entered, looking troubled. I saw Commander Kelly leaving. He looked angry. He's worried that I'm becoming too Zephyrian, Jake said, that I'm forgetting I'm human. Lirelai sat down next to him. Are you? Jake considered the question seriously. I don't think so, but I am changing. I can feel it, not just physically but mentally too. I understand things about your technology that I shouldn't. I can sense the moods of your people. Sometimes I feel like I'm becoming something new. Perhaps that is not a bad thing, Lirelai said gently. Perhaps you are becoming what both our species need, someone who truly understands both worlds. But what if your father's enemies are right? What if I am weakening the Empire just by being here? Lirelai took his hand. Jake, do you know what the maintenance crews call you? No. They call you the bridge builder. They say you are the first person of high rank who has ever treated them with real respect. They say you are showing the nobles what true leadership looks like. Jake looked at her in surprise. I just treated them like people. Exactly. And that is revolutionary in our society. Lyrelai smiled. You are not weakening the Empire, Jake. You are helping it grow stronger. Before Jake could respond, the ship's alert system activated again. This time it was the highest level of emergency. All hands to battle stations. Lord Vextar's fleet has been detected approaching our position. Prepare for possible combat. Jake and Lyrelai looked at each other. The crisis they had all been dreading was finally here. I need to get to the command center, Lyrelai said, standing quickly. I'm coming with you, Jake said. Jake, this could be dangerous. If there's fighting, then I need to be there, Jake said firmly. I'm part of this family now. That means I share the dangers as well as the honors. As they hurried toward the command center, Jake realized that his time of learning and preparing was over. Whatever happened next would test everything he had learned about being both human and Zephyrian. It would test whether he really could be the bridge between two worlds, or whether he would be forced to choose a side after all. The command center was in chaos when Jake and Lyrelai arrived. Officers were shouting reports. Screens showed the positions of dozens of ships, and the tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Emperor Thoraxis stood in the center of it all, calm and commanding. When he saw Jake, he nodded approvingly. Good. You should be here for this. Father, what's the situation? Lyrelai asked. Lord Vextar has brought a fleet of 30 ships. He is demanding that I surrender you, Jake. As a traitor to the Empire, he claims you are a spy working to weaken our people from within. Jake felt cold. Maybe I should... You should stand right there and let me handle this, the Emperor said firmly. Vextar has made a mistake. He thinks threatening my family will make me weak. He is about to learn otherwise. Admiral Zexhai approached them. Your Majesty, Lord Vextar is requesting to speak with you directly. He says he will call off his attack if you agree to his demands. Put him on screen, Emperor Thoraxis commanded. The main display flickered, and suddenly they were looking at Lord Vextar. He was a tall Zephyrian with sharp features and cold eyes. His skin was darker than most, almost purple, and he wore elaborate robes that marked him as one of the highest nobles in the Empire. Thoraxis, Vextar said, not using the Emperor's proper title. You have brought shame upon our people long enough. Surrender the human spy to me, and I will consider allowing you to remain Emperor. Vextar, the Emperor replied calmly. You forget yourself. I am your Emperor, and you will address me as such. Vexitar laughed coldly. You are my Emperor, but an Emperor who honors aliens over his own people has lost the right to rule. The noble houses agree with me. Half the military supports me. Your time is over. Jake stepped forward despite Lyrelai trying to hold him back. Lord Vextar, I'm not a spy. I'm just someone who tried to help. Silence, alien. You have poisoned the Emperor's mind with your foreign ideas. You have made him weak and foolish. The only foolish one here is you, Vextar, Emperor Thoraxis said. You attack your own Emperor based on lies and jealousy. You are the traitor, not Jake. Prove it, Vextar snarled. Face me in single combat, as is your right as Emperor. If you win, I will submit to your rule. If I win, the human dies and you abdicate the throne. Jake saw the trap immediately. Emperor Thoraxis was powerful, but he was also older than Vextar. In a physical fight, the younger noble might have an advantage. Father, don't, Lyrelai whispered. It's too dangerous, but Emperor Thoraxis was already nodding. I accept your challenge, Vextar, but I invoke my right as Emperor to name a champion to fight in my place. Who? Vextar demanded. Emperor Thoraxis turned to Jake. Will you fight for me, my son? The command center went completely silent. Every eye was on Jake. He could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. This was not just about him anymore. This was about the future of two species, about the possibility of peace between worlds. I will, Jake said simply. Vextar's eyes widened. You would send an alien to fight your battles for you? This proves my point. You have no honor left. On the contrary, Emperor Thoraxis said calmly. I am sending my son to defend our family's honor. Jake Martinez is a member of the Imperial family, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails, including the right to serve as my champion. 2 hours later, Jake stood alone in the combat chamber aboard Vextar's flagship. The room was circular with high walls and a floor that could change texture and obstacles according to the combat rules. Representatives from both fleets watched from observation galleries above. Jake wore simple combat armor and carried weapons he had trained with over the past weeks. But his real advantages were the changes the energy blast had made to his body. He was faster and stronger than any normal human, and his instinctive understanding of Zephyrian technology extended to their weapons and armor. Lord Vextar entered from the opposite side of the chamber. He was larger than Jake and clearly experienced in combat. His armor was more elaborate, his weapons more advanced. He moved with the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. "Last chance, human," Vextar called across the chamber. "Surrender now and I will make your death quick." "I don't surrender," Jake replied. "And I don't quit." The combat began with the sound of a chime. Vextar moved immediately, firing energy blasts from his weapon while advancing across the chamber. Jake rolled behind a barrier that rose from the floor, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to avoid the deadly beams. But Jake was not just trying to survive. He was thinking. Vextar was skilled and experienced, but he was also arrogant. He expected Jake to fight like a human, to be limited by human capabilities. Jake was no longer limited by those things. He vaulted over the barrier and closed the distance between them faster than Vexatar expected. The noble barely got his own weapon up in time to block Jake's attack. They fought hand to hand, and Jake could see surprise in Vextar's eyes as he realized the human was stronger than he looked. "Impossible," Vextar snarled, trying to create distance between them. "No human could match a Zephyrian warrior." "You're right," Jake said, pressing his attack. "But I'm not just human anymore. I'm something new." They fought across the chamber using weapons and hand-to-hand combat. Vextar was skilled, but Jake had advantages the noble could not understand. Every time Vextar tried to use his superior technology, Jake seemed to know exactly how to counter it. Finally, Jake saw his opening. Vexatar had backed against the chamber wall, breathing hard. The noble raised his weapon for one final attack, but Jake was ready. He moved faster than the eye could follow, knocking the weapon aside and pinning Vextar against the wall. "Yield," Jake said quietly. "Never," Vextar spat. "I will not surrender to an alien." "Then you'll die for nothing," Jake replied. "Your choice." For a moment they stared at each other. Then Vextar's shoulders sagged in defeat. "I yield," he said bitterly. Jake stepped back, breathing hard. Around them the chamber was silent except for the sound of their breathing. Then from the observation galleries came the sound of cheering from the Emperor's supporters. Later, as the fleets dispersed and Vexatar was taken into custody, Jake found himself alone with Emperor Thraxus in the Emperor's private quarters. "You fought well," the Emperor said. "You fought with honor." "I fought to protect my family," Jake replied. "That's what sons do, right?" Emperor Thraxus smiled and placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. "Indeed they do. But now we must discuss what comes next." "What do you mean?" "Jake, what you did today will be remembered throughout the Empire. You proved that courage and honor are not limited by species or birth. You showed that a human can fight for Zephyrian ideals as fiercely as any of our people." The Emperor moved to the window and looked out at the stars. "But I also know that you struggle with belonging to two worlds. You are human, but you are also my son. You serve Earth, but you also serve the Empire." Jake joined him at the window. "I've been thinking about that, and I think I've found an answer." "Oh?" "I don't want to choose between being human and being Zephyrian. I want to be both. I want to be the bridge between our peoples that Princess Lyrelei talked about." Emperor Thoraxus nodded slowly. "What are you proposing?" "A permanent cultural exchange program. I'll be the first human ambassador to live long-term with the Imperial family. I'll learn everything I can about your people and teach you about mine. When new situations arise between our species, I'll be there to help both sides understand each other." "And you would give up your chance to return to your simple life on Earth?" Jake thought about his old life, fixing air conditioners, working long hours, eating cheap food. Then he thought about the last few weeks, learning about an ancient civilization, becoming part of a royal family, fighting to protect people he cared about. "I think my simple life led me here for a reason," he said. "I think this is what I was meant to do." Emperor Thoraxus was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to Jake and pulled him into one of his crushing hugs. "Then it is decided. You will be my son, my ambassador, and my bridge to your people. But first you should return to Earth. Say goodbye to your family and friends. Let them see what you have become." 3 months later, Jake stood on a hillside outside his hometown on Earth, watching the sunset with Princess Lyrelei beside him. She had insisted on coming with him to see the world that had shaped the human who saved her life. "It's beautiful," she said, watching the orange and red colors paint the sky. "Your sun is so warm and bright." Different from your homeworld? Very different. But lovely in its own way. She looked at him. Do you miss it? The simplicity of your old life. Jake considered the question. His mother and sister had been amazed by the changes in him, proud of what he had accomplished but worried about the dangers he now faced. His old friends from work could barely believe the story of what had happened to him. Sometimes, he said honestly, but I think I miss the idea of it more than the reality. I was never really happy just fixing things and going home every day. I wanted to be part of something bigger, and now you are. Now I am. Jake smiled. Besides, I'm still fixing things. I'm just fixing relationships between species instead of air conditioners. Princess Lyrelay laughed. Father would be amused by that comparison. How is he doing with the new policies? Jake asked. After Vextar's failed coup, Emperor Thoraxis had implemented